Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Champagne and JD. We've been off for a couple of weeks for a variety of different reasons, but we're back, and we are back with a supercharged show. I'm Andrew Champagne alongside JD Fox, and as always, we have a very special guest. And I'm going to channel my inner Lanny Poffo and introduce him by way of a poem. I will read it. Okay. This is Joe Nevills. Little old man from next door said he was busy. How was that on the haiku scale? And by the way, I don't know if you noticed, there was a slight subliminal message there just for all of our viewers out there on an annual battle that I constantly fight.
I approve. I approve so hard. That was a well done haiku.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's good. JD, do you approve of the new material? Thank you. Thank you. Polite golf clap. I'll take it. On a serious note, JD, really happy you're feeling better, and it's good to be back here with you.
When you say you have a bit to open the show, I'm just so used to it being at my expense that it was a welcome change, and that was more of the applause than anything else. But I'm happy to be back, glad to be back. And Kentucky Derby in September, 1 week before the real race, which is obviously the Queen's Plate at Woodbine. But we're going to talk Kentucky Derby, and we're gonna latch into some Kentucky Derby memories. And I'm going to go ahead and kick off here, and I've got a visual aid as well, because I have really tried to work on appreciating Kentucky Derbies from before when I was born. So I have this Peter Lee book on Spectacular Bid. And from reading this book and from watching both the 79 Derby and some of the aftermath, I really grew a fondness this year for what Spectacular Bid was as a horse, who he was as a horse, and just how dominant he was as a horse. So I want to challenge us. We always think about Kentucky Derby memories as ones that we remembered and watched or were there for, but there is so much history to this race that historians have really helped us over the years, and we've got some great books being written by some of our friends in the industry as well. So, if you're in Derby season and it's a non-traditional Derby season, go back and watch some old Derbies from before when you were born and check out some new cool horses, whether they were one-hit wonders or an amazing horse like Spectacular Bid.
Point of order. You probably should have picked a better word than memory if you were going to look back at something that wasn't necessarily a memory for you because you were not necessarily alive.
See, the key to this is in written form, and I read this previously. So therefore, it is now a memory from reading this book.
Joe, third-party ruling.
After further review, we the jury rule in favor of JD that if you read something, you have the memory of actually reading the event. It may not necessarily be a memory of the event itself, but you can remember yourself reading it and how you felt when you read it.
My next haiku is going to be far, far meaner here. Let me see. Let me cross out a couple of words. Let me move this around. Go here, go here, go here. Oh, okay. Yeah. So as far as one of my favorite Derby stories from way, way, way back, I'm not going to call it a memory because while there is a pronounced old man inside of me that is trying to get out and occasionally succeeds, this one was from the 1940s. And the story that I'm going to tell is the story of Whirlaway, the Triple Crown winner, who had a history of bolting to the outside in some of his races. And leading up to the Kentucky Derby, Ben Jones, one of the top trainers in the history of the game, parked a pony one path off the rail and told Eddie Arcaro in his last workout before the Derby to drive Whirlaway through it. Eddie Arcaro's thoughts were something along the lines of, if he's stupid enough to give this a try, I'm stupid enough to listen to him. Drives Whirlaway through the hole. Last work went great. Whirlaway wins the Derby, winds up winning the Triple Crown. It's a really cool story. There are a bunch of cool details about Calumet Farm in the 1940s. Some really, really fun stuff if you dig back far enough.
For me, my Kentucky Derby memory, I've got a couple of them, and they both circle around the very first Kentucky Derby that I attended in person, the 2010 Derby Super Saver. First off, that Kentucky Derby is where I met my wife, Natalie. We first met at the 2010 Kentucky Derby media party, and we Actually, didn't hit it off that well that night. She'll be the first one to tell you that, but we kept we kept in touch, and eventually we have been married for over 5 years now. So that's the good news. The bad news is once we finally got to the event itself, I've never had a whole lot of good luck dealing with people at the Kentucky Derby. So this is my first Derby that I'd been to Churchill Downs a few times before, so I knew the lay of the land. I knew generally what was going on, but I hadn't been there on a big day like this, and I wasn't used to dealing with the drunken masses. So this was on Oaks Day, the day before the Derby. I'm trying to get from the media elevator to the paddock, and I feel it's this hot day, and all of a sudden I hear this crash of glass, and then I feel a cool sensation on me. It's the sensation of getting mint julep thrown on you because two bros in pink shirts are getting into a fight, and you've been caught in the crossfire. So for the rest of the weekend, my suit, which I'm barely out of college at this point, I don't have that many suits. I didn't bring that many down to Louisville with me. It just reeks of alcohol for the rest of the weekend. So I have to deal with this, and it's a lasting impression of the Derby that really continues to renew itself year after year with new drunk faces and new drunk happenings. It seems like something new every year happens to me, and I mean, I'm obviously sad that there aren't going to be fans in attendance, but this is one year where that streak will be broken. So hooray for that.
You think. I'm just saying there might be somebody out there, just waiting for you to go under a certain overhang and then tip.
Friendly tip from the stage world, though. Stage performers that have to wear the same costumes over and over and over again that may not be able to wash them, they actually use vodka. So it was just the wrong alcohol and the wrong mixer. So if you just threw some vodka on there, it probably would have been fine.
See, I wish I would have known that 10 years ago, but that doesn't do me much good right now.
That's sort of JD's default function. That's, him relaying information 10 years too late before it's, before it can do any good. So
better now than when I'm handicapping, because if it's a horse from 10 years ago, I mean, the chances are they're not running anymore.
Unless it's a horse at Emerald Downs earlier that you were talking to me about. There was a horse that ran Thursday at Emerald Downs a couple hours before we started recording. And JD, you mentioned this, quick tangent. Actually, a horse that ran and won at the old Hollywood Park has to be one of the last horses who ran at Hollywood Park that's still in training.
And tried to break the maiden the year before at Hollywood Park, missed in 3 tries, and actually broke the maiden at Del Mar before returning the following season to win at Hollywood Park in the final season at Betfair Hollywood Park then. So, there are some cool old war horses, and that's another topic for another day, and another probably one that Joe can school us on with, the Arabian bred and their ability to last a lot longer. We're obviously, if we have Joe back on for the Preakness to talk Arabians, we'll get into that.
Where's my intervention banner? I'm going to need a wider screen so that I can fit more than 1 or 2 letters on there.
So obviously, you guys, on the podcast, we've had some great guests in the past, and we have some good friends of the show, and we wanted to really reach out to as many people as we could on this week's show and allow them to share some both picks for the Derby and some Derby memories. So we're going to throw to a package now where we have some of our special guests and friends of the show, and they recount some of their favorite Kentucky Derby memories.
Hey guys, this is Joe at @AndAwayTheyJoe on Twitter. And I wanted to share with you my Kentucky Derby moment, which is behind this picture here. And that was when California Chrome won the Kentucky Derby. California Chrome represented California, and I loved him in such a big way that it was such a phenomenal moment for me even before the Dubai World Cup and all those other races that he's been in. He represented California. I'm from California. It was one of my favorite moments when he crossed the line, so this is one of my favorite Kentucky Derby moments.
Hello, my name is Dave Champagne. Before I get into my Kentucky Derby memory, I do want to make it very clear that I was not the one who told Andrew to smack Amanda Bynes around. I told him to play defense, and the next thing I knew, she was crying. So, with that in mind, I'm going to move on to the 1986 Kentucky Derby. Back then, the New York Post used to run an extensive Derby prep, and you'd get workouts and things like that for all the horses. And I was very successful for several years in seeing who was ready for the race. So, with that in mind, I found Ferdinand, who ended up going off at 17-1, but had 2 or 3 very good works for Charlie Winningham, the trainer, and Bill Shoemaker was going to be riding. So I went to my local OTB and I put the majestic sum of $5 across the board on Ferdinand, who, like I said, went off at 17-1. And then I went to a Kentucky Derby party. And when Ferdinand went off dead last, everybody at the party was sticking the needle into me pretty good. And then Shoe started to move on the horse. Hopefully there's video accompanying this narrative, because it was one of the most incredible moves I've ever seen in horse racing, as Shoe threaded his way through, well, what's always a really big field in the Derby, and went on to win at 17-1. And of course at the party I began to get more and more obnoxious as Shoe worked his way through the field, and as I won my princely sum of $85 at 17-1 on $5, I made sure that I stuck the needle back into people, and may have been a little bit obnoxious because my wife at the time wasn't speaking to me by the time the race was over, and it didn't get any better after we went to Pimlico for the Preakness. Anyway, that's my Derby recollection, and I hope you enjoy it.
When it comes to the Kentucky Derby, I have a lot of fond memories. Whether it's in 1984 when Swale won, and that was when I was first introduced to the game, all the way up to 2013 when Ord won and my daughter was born. I made a big score in 2014 with California Chrome, so the Derby has a lot of meaning to me and my family in some ways.
What's going on, everybody? Darren Zocali here on Andrew and JD's show. Andrew had asked me for a video about a Derby memory. So a funny one for me was back in 2003. The Derby was the day after my high school girlfriend's senior prom. So the morning after the prom, everybody was going down to Wildwood, New Jersey, but I told her, no, can't go yet. We have to go to the Meadowlands for Derby Day. So I literally dragged her early in the morning, like about 10 a.m., over to the Meadowlands, which is rough after senior prom for obvious reasons. And we spent the whole day at the Meadowlands, to the point where in the Clubhouse Teletheater, she at one point was asleep with her head on the desk as we were watching and wagering on Churchill Downs, me and my dad and our friends. And then after the Derby, which I hit with Funny Side, we ended up going down to the Jersey Shore and joining up with everybody else. So literally, I made my girlfriend wait for Derby Day to be able to go hang out with everybody for the after prom. Funny story, needless to say, relationship didn't last that long. Good luck in the Derby, everybody. Hope you cash some big tickets. Talk to you later.
The Kentucky Derby is a race that I look forward to every year, and looking back at the previous editions, the 2009 Kentucky Derby really stands out to me. Obviously, Mind That Bird shocked so many people, and I think just looking at the replay alone, the trip that he got from Calvin Burrell and to see him win the way that he did is just remarkable. I still get chills watching the replay, but the reason that the race really sticks out for me is last minute my dad and I decided to play a 5-horse exacta box. We ended up cashing on it because we had Mind That Bird and Pioneer of the Nile. So on a $20 investment, we got over $1,000 back, but it's also our biggest betting blunder because we also had Musket Man on that ticket. So if we would have boxed those horses in the dollar try, well, we would have had over $20,000.
Once again, thanks to everybody who submitted some videos ahead of this week's podcast. We really wanted to do something different, something fun that brought in a number of opinions from a lot of people that we like and respect. We've been very fortunate over the couple of months that we've done this podcast to be able to assemble a really cool lineup of past guests, some guests that we have in the hopper moving forward. By all means, hit that subscribe button on YouTube if you want to make sure to never miss any of our weekly uploads. We'll be back up and running now that I am out of the work forest and JD is back in good health. So we're really excited about this, and we're really excited about the first Saturday in September for the Kentucky Derby. Tiz the Law, a 3-5 morning line favorite. Several big defections leading up to the race. Art Collector, unfortunately, will not go. And on Thursday, it was revealed King Guillermo will not go as well. Art Collector, probably a bigger loss. But King Guillermo, JD, a horse that some people thought might have been a wise guy horse given how he was training.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people that really were hyping up King Guillermo over time. And I don't think we ever saw that version of King Guillermo on the track, but we saw some glimpses. So it was a very interesting horse, especially a horse that I think a lot of players were going to use underneath in their tickets and ticket construction, and probably was going to wind up potentially on some deep pick 5 tickets. But a defection from the field that also might make it a little less speedy in certain aspects. There's still a lot of speed signed on, but he was certainly one of the contenders from the front end perspective.
Yeah, for sure. And Joe, Art Collector, though, the bigger scratch. This is a horse that came on the scene late for a small barn. Tom Drury does not train many horses. Comes on the scene, wins an allowance race at Churchill Downs very impressively, goes to Keeneland, wins the Bluegrass, goes to Ellis Park, wins the Ellis Park Derby, was probably going to be the second choice. That's a gut punch.
Absolutely. And he's one that, especially before the Bluegrass Stakes, he was a relative unknown. He really hadn't done that much running at a high level, but it seemed like a lot of smart people had a lot of steam on this horse, and he lived up to it every step of the way. He's probably going to be one of those horses that fought on the pace. Personally, I wasn't going to play him. I'll take that stand right now. I think that the draw would have said a lot. I think there are probably horses there that would have beat him, but he definitely would have been a factor, and definitely would have been a factor in a lot of different people's tickets.
For sure. That is the horse that was the subject of one of the biggest win bets of my life in the Bluegrass. I assumed that there would be a lot of people betting Swiss Skydiver because of the filly against the boys effect. They did. Art Collector nowhere near the morning line, but still nice score that I'll remember for a long, long time. So, JD, this is going to be a big question, and it's a question that a lot of our regular viewers are probably asking right now. Every time Tiz the Law has run this season, you have tried to find ways to pick against him as a top pick. All Tiz the Law has done has beaten you every single time. Are you trying again?
Am I trying again is a different question than is Tiz the Law going to win the race?
Well, I figure that, we'll address the question of your sanity first before we go into the handicapping part of it.
Okay. I'm just going to put it up on the screen. I do think, obviously, this is Tiz the Law's race to lose. I think significant trouble is going to be needed. It's going to be really significant trouble. It's going to be completely boxed, shuffled, something of that effect, or, God forbid, something else happening. Won't go into potential scenarios there, but I think this is a year that Tiz the Law has lived up to every challenge, every step of the way, and this is, I think one of the more dominant favorites we're going to see in a long time. Even looking forward here with the year we've had, with the defections we've had from this race, I think there's a good possibility Tiz the Law in a Kentucky Derby is going to go off at 3-5.
Yeah, I have a very difficult time believing that he will not be an odds-on favorite. JD, do you want to yield the floor over to Joe, or would you like me to say a very quick piece on who my top selection is going to be in this race?
You can go ahead, because this is definitely the uncreative part of the show.
Now, are you saying that because I'm the one picking the horse, or are you saying that because of who the favorite is?
A little column A, a little column B.
I am making a mental note of this, and even as we speak, I am plotting appropriate retribution. I'm going to make this really quick. I have 2 theories about what's going to happen on Saturday. The first theory is Tiz the Law should not lose. Barring Authentic playing the role of Bayern and Tiz the Law playing the role of Shared Belief, Tiz the Law should not lose this race. We know he can get a 1.25 miles. We know he can thump most of these rivals. He doesn't draw a post that is overly prohibitive. He didn't draw the rail. He didn't draw the 2-hole. Didn't draw the 3-hole. He's drawn outside. Manny Franco should be able to sit a dream trip stalking just off the speed. If Tiz the Law doesn't win, a lot of people lose, and I can't get cute, at least on top. I do have a theory about what's going on underneath. We'll get to that in a little bit. But, Joe, your thoughts?
Well, to me, there are 2 serious win candidates in this race, and Tiz the Law is the big one of these two. He's already done it at the distance, as you mentioned. He's beaten just about everyone in this field that he's faced. His only real big defeat came at Churchill Downs last year as a 2-year-old, and he's got that to avenge. And beyond that, the Triple Crown is his next mountain to conquer, and this is the next step for him. I think he's going to be a very imposing favorite here.
Before we move on, I need to ask this question because you brought up the 2 words Triple Crown. How are you treating this year's series? Asterisk, no asterisk, call it something else? Your thoughts?
I told people beforehand that under any other circumstance, I would be willing to at least look at it with a bit of side eye, but Tiz the Law has been so good and so consistent throughout the year, prior to what would have been a May Triple Crown, leading into what is going to be into September and October Triple Crown, that if he does it, he was going to be the guy anyway. So I'm kind of fine with it. He's the right horse for the right event, and if he gets it done, then he's your Triple Crown winner. It's a different kind of Triple Crown, but I don't think there's anyone that could argue that he was the best in his division back in April, May. And if he does it here, there's no one that can argue he's the best in the division in the fall.
Fair enough. I mean, I had been of the belief that we should call it something else, but then you get Tiz the Law winning by open lengths every time out. This isn't a horse that's winning by a half length or 3/4 of a length where he's pleading for the wire every time. This is a horse that has consistently proven he is the best of his generation. And JD, I'm really happy that you've come on board finally after getting your clock cleaned by this horse many, many times.
I will say, you have 2 things here. You have a very heavy favorite in the Kentucky Derby, and you have gigantic pools. So while I say that Tiz the Law is the likely winner of this race, when we go over some plays later, do not expect Tiz the Law to solely be singled on top. I'm just going to say that.
Fair enough. I'm just saying, baby steps, okay? Baby steps. You're making progress. I'm proud of you.
Okay, I don't know what to say. So
yeah,
we'll
just move on. We move on.
We'll move on, and where we're going to move on to is, because I put through all the graphics together, I know this is a horse that neither of you guys are going to talk about in our top 4 picks in the Derby because it's not on either of your tickets. So, and Andrew, this is a horse I've liked for a while. We got New York Traffic. So, what has New York Traffic done? We have a ranking here of the top 4, and New York Traffic is in second. New York Traffic is very good at finishing second. You look at the trip in the Louisiana Derby, that's a strong second. You look at the Matt Winn, that's a strong second. You look at the Haskell. Now, that's an interesting race. Obviously, I think Authentic was backtracking. You look at the final furlong time. While, yes, New York Traffic was technically going faster, you will find $32,000 claimers who would move faster over a final furlong in certain types of races. So I will say this. New York Traffic a couple times has looked dead to rights with 200 meters to go and has a lot of heart and a lot of finish. I think with the defection, I think really this is the key for me, is with the defection of King Guillermo, I do think that if you want to win the Derby, this is true in the current Derby structure with no rabbits. You've got to be on or near the lead, and I think New York Traffic is going to be just that much closer without a King Guillermo in this field. So I think New York Traffic has a much better chance of finishing first or second than third, fourth, or fifth because of how the Derby works and how the Derby operates in modern times. So New York Traffic is my second choice in this Derby. No, it is not on our AP. I'm out on my own here. I realize that completely. Andrew, you're going to bring some sanity to this situation, or are you?
Like I said, I have 2 theories. The first theory is Tiz the Law wins. The second theory is Enforceable hits the board. Enforceable, way, way, way back in the pre-COVID times of January or February, was my Belmont horse. There is a parallel universe where COVID gets contained and Enforceable wins the Belmont and pays $32.40 as a 15-to-1 shot. This is a horse who, if you tried to explain what the term turn of foot means, would fall asleep on you. He has none. He is a grinder. This is a horse that will consistently throw 12 and change, 12 and change, 12 and change, 12 and change furlongs, which at 1.1 miles, not necessarily all that effective. At 1.25 miles against a field of horses who every year, the Kentucky Derby distance claims 2/3 of them before it even starts. That's not going to be a problem with Enforceable. He doesn't have to do a whole heck of a lot, I think, to run second or third in here at a big, big price. This is a horse that has shown talent in the past. He is a one-run horse. He is a grinder. This is a horse that will be moving the right direction late. And if you want a price, you're going to get it. If Tiz the Law wins and Enforceable runs second, it's going to be a very, very, very good day for me. And after this, I just hope they run Enforceable in something like the Marathon on Breeders' Cup weekend, because I think that is a horse built to go about 9,000 turns.
All right, you've heard craziness from the two of us, Joe. Let's rein it in with some sanity and likely to the betting public and to the rest of the world outside of this podcast, probably the other win choice in this race.
Yeah, I honestly don't like either of you guys' second choices to finish anywhere close to that far.
That's the greatest endorsement we could ask for. Thank you.
I could give you very detailed reasons for both of them, but I'm just not that mean of a guy. So I'm just going to say it. Occam's razor, baby. We're going Honor AP for our number 2 pick. For me, I mentioned that there are 2 serious win candidates here. Honor AP is the second one. They're breaking side by side, so if one of them is going to get the trip, the other one is probably going to get the clean trip too. I think this is the battle that's been setting up for as long as we've had a Kentucky Derby trail, and this is going to set up to hopefully live up to the hype. Honor AP is my second pick, but if he ends up getting over Tiz the Law, he's a fresher horse. He's had fewer starts. He hasn't traveled as many miles. It wouldn't absolutely floor me, but I think Honor AP is going to be a very gallant second here.
Shock eater!
Because of our very advanced graphics system, I'm going to go ahead and do this.
Hey!
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we do have some sanity here. Again, I'm looking at this from 4 horses that could win the race. So I'm not looking at a closer winning this particular race, because we have not seen closers win the Kentucky Derby recently. So I'm looking at horses at or near the lead, and I think obviously Honor AP is going to fit that bill. Probably going to be the furthest off of the horses that I talk about, but still has a lot of tactical speed, obviously can do a lot, and Mike Smith obviously knows what he's doing, and I'm not going to give him any riding pointers anytime soon.
You sure about that? I mean, everybody on Twitter seems to be doing that.
Middle move Mike. No, I'm not in that camp.
What I will say is, if you haven't seen the feature that TVG did leading up to the Pacific Classic where jockeys read mean tweets, go take 2 minutes out of your time to do that. It's fantastic. Good on you, TVG, for doing that. That was really cool. Honor AP, look, I like the horse. There are reasons to like the horse. He's going to be the second choice. And I almost picked him second. I almost did. But I feel like I should have liked the 7 furlong work more than I did. I watched that, and look, I understand he's not going to work 7 furlongs in 122 flat, and that's not the objective. To me, that seemed kind of like a Belmont work rather than a Derby work. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more life out of him the last 3/8 of a mile. Mike Smith wasn't asking him for a whole heck of a lot, and maybe that was the objective. Far be it for me to tell John Sheriffs how to train. But I just think that if you're going to make money in this race, you need to take a stand with a bit of a price somewhere. That's why I picked Enforceable second. And if Enforceable winds up winning, I'm not going to complain about that either. More on that when we talk about our tickets. But Honor AP, certainly a legitimate horse for as much crap as I gave Joe earlier. This is a horse that could certainly run well in this race. Can he beat Tiz the Law? I don't think so. I think Tiz the Law is a different animal, but wouldn't be the biggest surprise in the world.
And now to prove why Joe belongs on this podcast, look at this, ladies and gentlemen.
So my third place pick for the Derby is Sole Volante, and here's why. Churchill Downs has traditionally been the type of track that will play kindly to turfy horses. Think of Animal Kingdom. Think of some of the horses that have snuck up and gotten, ticket-busting spots. They've been really well turf bred. They've been really well synthetic bred. And Sole Volante is a son of Caraconti, has a really turfy family on the bottom. and he has the kind of style that I think he could sneak up and grab some stuff, grab a check here, bless some tickets. I mean, he hadn't hardly done a step wrong prior to the Belmont Stakes. Pat Viancone admitted that, maybe I turned him around a little too quick for the Belmont. I'm willing to put a line through that. I think this horse is, if he's right, assuming that he's in the right condition and that the Belmont didn't take too much out of him, or maybe that's a sign of a form reversal. If we get the Solo Volante that I think he's capable of being, I think he's going to be a potential ticket buster.
You're not alone. I hear Jake Roberts likes that horse a lot.
You want to play 21? I got 22.
And that is a reference 6 people watching this podcast will get, counting the 3 of us.
Yes, it was magical, and it took place in a casino. The one question I have for you, Joe, is what do you think about the last 4 works being on turf? Does that factor in at all to looking at this horse in this spot?
See, I turned my eye up at those 2, but again, if you're going to pull a stunt like that, the Churchill Downs dirt surface is the kind of track where you can, because of its turf friendly nature. I think it's a weird move. I don't know if I necessarily trust it, but just looking at the middle price to higher price favorites, the ones who aren't exactly your sexy Tiz the Laws and Honor APs, he's one that he keeps sticking out at me. He's one that I can't turn away from. And I just keep remembering all the times these weird turf horses have done stuff at Churchill Downs and made my life difficult because I didn't put a little extra money on them. So I'm going with the flow here, and we're going to see if Solo Volante can do anything for me.
Andrew, leading into your 4th selection here, I've really been hearing wise guy horse angles for this particular horse, and I'm very curious to hear what you like about 1,000 Words.
Okay, first of all, Bob Baffert has 2 in here. I want no part of Authentic. Authentic to me screams of a horse that does not want this 1.25 mile distance. I think Authentic wins the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile if Vekoma doesn't run in that race. I think he is a dyed-in-the-wool 7 furlongs, 1 mile horse that's gone 1 1/8 miles solely based on class. And by the way, if you don't like Authentic, you can't really be too enthusiastic about New York traffic either. Just saying. So 1,000 Words to me has the other priced Baffert appeal, which I understand sounds incredibly ridiculous, but those who follow California racing know when Baffert sends 2 horses somewhere, a lot of times the bigger priced Baffert steps up and gets you. Do I think 1,000 Words has what it takes to win this race? Probably not. But I do know that the best of 1,000 Words is pretty darn good. I know when Bob Baffert ships in, he doesn't ship in for frequent flyer miles, and I know he's going to be a little bit of a price. So I'll throw 1,000 Words in on the bottom of my hypothetical superfecta.
I obviously I have to be next because you're going to see an A word show up on my play here, and that's Authentic. And obviously I have to have Authentic if I think New York traffic has a chance. The other thing I want to say, and it's taken us well over 20 minutes into this podcast to talk about it, the other factor of why I have Authentic in here is the gate. That's going to sound like crazy talk if you haven't been following the gate. But I do think there's going to be a couple horses that could potentially have trouble with the new gate and being able to get out cleanly, getting able to get out around what are very tight quarters, less padding than they're used to, very tight quarters for the assistant starters. We could see crazy things happen. So we've got another horse in Authentic that has a lot of speed. Can he get the distance? Probably not. But if some weird thing happens at the gate and he's able to get the race to himself up front, I mean, we've seen crazier things happen. So I looked at this as the top 4 horses that I think could win the Derby. I'm not saying that Authentic is going to finish 4th. I think Authentic is going to win in a major upset or finish last. I do not really like Authentic in any horizontal wager whatsoever, any vertical wager whatsoever. But I do think that given the circumstances, this horse does have a chance.
All right, Joe, your thoughts.
If Authentic were about 5 spots more inside the gate, I'd like him a lot more. But I don't see him as the big brown type of talent who is going to break from the far outside, get to the front, and have enough gas to stay there from that far out all the way to the finish. That said, I went with, for my fourth place, I went number 2, Max Player. I love me an honor code. We know that he's capable of getting a check wherever he goes. He always turns an honest effort. Doesn't necessarily win, but he will always try for you. And he has the kind of running style that I think he can recover from getting piled on in the 2 position and still make his way through traffic, gain some space early, and potentially get on your tickets on the bottom of the card. Do I think he's a win candidate? Probably not. But I think he's got enough gusto in him, both from past performance and from pedigree, that he's worth looking at the bottom of your ticket.
The one thing I'll note about Max Player is he is one of the My Racehorse products that is in the Derby starting gate. Authentic is the other one. And I've got a hunch that both of those horses are going to come down significantly off of their morning line prices. Max Player is 30 to 1. I think every one of his 9,000 owners is going to have some money on this horse. And I think as a result, you're going to get closer to about 20 to 1. Now, Max Player is a nice horse, and I'm not trying to knock the horse in the slightest. And if you like him, I'm not going to talk you off of a horse like that because of what kind of price he's likely to be. But I just don't think he's the kind of horse that'll tackle the likes of Tiz the Law and Honor AP. I think he's a very good grade 2, grade 3 kind of horse. They're taking a shot with him. It's the Kentucky Derby. You cannot fault someone for taking a shot when you have a decent 3-year-old that's eligible to go run in the Kentucky Derby. I just prefer others in this spot, and I did think about using him in 4th. It's not like he's a complete and total no-hoper. I just preferred others.
I guess
something I like about. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so Sport BLX for Max Player, so not My Racehorse, but similar thing. Okay. The 2 things I wanted to point out, and I'm sorry, Joe, because I didn't mean to cut you off here, is we don't often see a $2 million plus earner in the Kentucky Derby, and that's what we have with Tiz the Law. And we don't often see a horse making their first time out of a barn, first start out of a barn. And obviously, the change from Linda Rice to Asmussen for Max Player is very peculiar. I think that's the word I want to use there.
Worked with Bob Baffert for War Emblem.
See, that's something that tripped me up a little bit with putting Max Player this high, but when you get Asmussen, you also get Ricardo Santana Jr., who's a very good jockey, especially at Churchill Downs. And he's riding this horse for the first time in this race, and the dude's going to win a Derby at some point. He's too good. He's going to make it happen at some point. Do I think it's going to be with Max Player? Probably not, but I think he's going to put in a very solid effort. He knows that track as well as anyone, and I think he's one of the riders that would be able to deal with getting an inside post on this and recovering and doing well enough. On a related note, dealing with inside posts and late rallies and handling traffic like that, how did Calvin Burrell not get a mount in this? We've got so many local riders riding in the Derby for the first time this year because guys from outside didn't want to get here at the first of the month and, be in the state for all this time. How did somebody not decide, Calvin Burrell, he's got that Derby magic. It's been a while, but you know what? Our horse doesn't have a shot anyway. Let's throw it up there and see if we can get a mind that bird trip out of him. It didn't happen. I'm a little bummed.
I mean, is he maybe making 50 to 1 the sequel?
I mean, you can't make the sequel if you don't make the start with him in the first place. That's all I'm saying.
No, and there was a horse, if you followed the trail, we're going to get to the tickets here in a second. I've obviously been a big fan of Finnick the Fierce throughout this process. I thought Finnick the Fierce had a shot here, and then just the one hole, which is for his running style, just the absolute worst place to be. Even though the one draw isn't as bad as previous years with, I'll say something positive about the gate. So really he's going to be breaking from about the 3 path, which is good. He's not going to be really stuck to that rail and thinking about, am I going to jump over the rail or run this race, which I think anybody that's drawn the one hole previously in the Kentucky Derby really has in their head. But, yeah, I think this is where the buck stops. I mean, obviously this was a horse that, ran pretty competitively against King Guillermo way back in the Arkansas Derby. Very disappointing in the Bluegrass. Didn't set up for him as well. But Finnick the Fierce, much love. Post-Derby, when you're back in allowance company, I'm going to be hammering you hard, but
Oklahoma
not on
Derby,
Saturday.
Remington Park, made for that horse.
Here's my take on Finnick the Fierce. You guys remember that song "Old Town Road" by Lil Nas S?
How could we forget?
Yeah. So the last time that Finnick the Fierce won, that song was a thing. That's how long it's been since that horse has found the winner's circle. So that's a hard streak to break in the biggest race of your life. But
I like it when the guest joins in and piling on my co-host. It's always great. It makes less work for me.
I told you why he wasn't going to be competitive, and you still hammer me. I mean, come on.
After your constant babbling about Finnick the Fierce, you're getting off of that horse in this spot. May very well put him in the winner's circle more than anything else.
Were you aware that Finnick the Fierce has one eye? Does that change your opinion?
No.
Wait, you mean like Patch?
Yes.
Like Patch. Patch got bet in half on Derby Day because the story came out that the horse had one eye. I do not see that happening again.
I feel like it hasn't been that big of a story, and I don't know, compared to Patch. I know that it's sort of, as you said that sarcastically because like the people in the know do know that, but with Patch, like that was his thing, and he became a folk hero for it, even though he really wasn't that good. He was fine, but Finnick the Fierce, I feel like people haven't really latched onto him as much, and I don't know if it's because we have such a weird Derby season this year, or maybe because he hasn't really hit on the level that Patch had a little bit of steam going into him into the big races, but I don't know. I feel like he doesn't have the same like this horse has one eye energy as his previous predecessors did.
I got to tell you though, with us talking about Patch all this time, I think Jeremy Balin's heart just skipped a beat just for a minute, wondering, oh no, someone's talking about Patch.
I feel like the bat signal went up, but it's a horse with one eye instead.
The pedant in me has to say one thing. So if you want to say the last time Finnick the Fierce crossed the wire ahead of every other horse, then you were correct, Joe. But the horse did win via disqualification in April.
See, but I don't have a hit song from April in my mind to make a trendy pop culture reference.
Because who's listening to the radio when you're not commuting anywhere?
Precisely. I listen to the same 5 songs on Spotify, so that doesn't really help anyone.
All right, so ticket-wise, we don't have any multi-race wagers. We may, myself and Andrew may throw some up on race day. Why I withheld is I'm waiting to see the track condition, to be honest, with some of the legs going in. Obviously, all of these horses are going to run in the Kentucky Derby unless something happens. It's not going to be a track-going situation. They're going to run, and we honestly have not seen most of these horses run in the slop. Obviously, Finnick the Fierce has won a race in the slop, just saying. But didn't cross the wire first, but won a race in the slop.
You hang on to that dream as long as you can.
So what we have are exactas, trifectas, and superfectas, and we're going to start in the exacta train, and the simplest of the exactas is going to belong to Mr. Champagne, so we're going to go ahead and start there with your $3 exacta box.
Sure. Now, just as a heads up here, my total play is $40, so obviously this not taking up a big chunk of my action, but I am boxing my top 2 picks, Enforceable and Tiz the Law. You'll see why I'm boxing this exacta as sort of a saver once you see my other action in this race. But if it comes in Tiz the Law, Enforceable, I'm dancing. On the off chance Enforceable runs the race of his life and Manny Franco does a Stuart Elliott and burns Tiz the Law on the front end, and Enforceable plays Birdstone and catches him. Hopefully that's not too soon for some of you racing fans. I was there that day. It was horrendous. But at any rate, I have those combinations covered for a couple of bucks.
And Joe, you told me it's a tradition that you have an exacta box that you throw out every year.
Yeah, that's, just to have a little bit of a rooting interest in the race. I put together a $1 exacta box for $20 with 5 horses in there. So I'm going with a lot of the horses that I mentioned, my top 4 picks. Number 2, Max Player. Number 7, Money Moves, is one that my head tells me this horse is in over his head. And he probably, he's a last-minute addition. His only race in the last few months was not even a winning one. But he got Javier Castellano. And you just can't discount the big jockey upgrade. So he's getting on my ticket here just in case. Sole Volante's on here because, as I mentioned, weird turfy stuff, you never know. And then my two win candidates, Honor AP and Tiz the Law, usually at least make my money back on these tickets. And that's mostly what I'm looking to do here. I'm not looking to get rich, but, if Money Moves does something and one of my top two win candidates does what they ought to do, who knows what happens. That's why it's fun.
And Andrew, we're going to go with your next tickets here, and they're going to be back-to-back as you have both of our trifectas. And you'll notice that they're very similar, not to challenge here, but first one we want to talk about here.
Sure. This is the trifecta versions of my two theories. Tiz the Law should not lose. Enforceable hits the board. Who finishes second or third? I don't know, and I don't care. Because if Tiz the Law wins and Enforceable hits the board, I hit the try. And if it's a situation where there's a big bomb that comes in second or third with Enforceable in the other underneath spot, I'm in a pretty good position. So these two plays combined for a $30 cost after the scratch of King Guillermo. It's 1 by 15 by 1 in either combination. So that's what I'm doing to try to make the most out of my two strongest theories. And you know what? If Honor AP runs second, if Authentic runs second, with Enforceable hitting the board, this should still pay okay.
Yes, so 17 all 3 and 17-3 all are your two combinations there. So $30 total with the trifecta play. And I have a question for you guys.
Hit me.
Do you guys want to make some money on Saturday?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do.
Well, if my $1 superfecta comes in, we will be getting better stuff than this very high-quality Woodford Reserve we have here, because this is a ticket that I absolutely love in this situation. And Andrew is already wincing because he loves it so much. We have a $28 play. And really, what we're looking at here is New York Traffic and Honor AP up top. We have Tiz the Law in the second spot. We're going all, and a horse you really like, Joe. I will say that the best closer in the Derby, if you look over the last couple of years, the best closing effort has generally finished 4th or 5th. I think Sol Volante is by far the best closer in this race. So I think Sol Volante is a lock to finish 4th. And unfortunately, I can't go to the window and say, hey, I would like to place money on Sol Volante finishing 4th. So I'm going to go all in with Sol Volante in 4th, 15-16 with 17 in the 2-hole, all in the 3rd spot, and Sol Volante in the 4th spot. It's over, Andrew. It's $28. We have a much more rational superfecta coming from Joe.
Is it safe to come out now?
Don't worry. That's the ticket of cowardice is coming out now, so you're good. I am not a particularly brave bettor. I'm not a particularly good bettor, unless it's a Michigan track, and those aren't around anymore. So I'm not a particularly brave bettor, and I'm not a particularly good bettor. So, keeping with my theme, there are two logical win candidates here, and that's Honor AP and Tiz the Law. They're on top for me. If one of those two doesn't win, something has gone on, and I wasn't going to make money anyway. So we might as well save our money on top and have some fun on the bottom. So those two are also in my second place spot because I assume that if one of them wins, the other one's going to finish second. Joining them in the second spot is Max Player and Solo Volante, two horses that I've already talked about that I have a lot of respect for. Joining on the third spot, I have Max Player. I have number 3 Enforceable. I don't love him in second, but I can see him clunking up for third. He's the type of horse that will give you just enough juice that, he'll give you some excitement. I just don't think he's a logical win candidate. I could see him picking some horses apart. Money Moves, I talked about earlier, is one that scares me just enough to put him on the bottom of my tickets, not enough to put him on the top. Mr. Big News, number 9. One of the last horses in the field, really well bred for the distance. Son of Giants Causeway, I believe, Son of Giants Causeway, good action on the bottom of the page. I think he's well bred enough that he could be sneaky on here. 1,000 Words, Andrew, as you mentioned, he's a Baffert horse. You can never discount a Baffert horse in the Derby. I don't love him to death, but him making some noise here could do something. Again, with Solo Volante and Honor AP, I put him in here because, closer doesn't get the trip. Maybe he runs third, but I think Tiz the Law is either going to finish first, second, or something has happened and he's not on the board anywhere. Going on to my fourth page, or onto the fourth place, a lot of the same horses here. Two that I'm adding, though. Winning Impression. I don't like this horse. I really don't. But Dallas Stewart scares me. He's got that Calvin Borel armor where he has done enough crazy crap on the big stages that you can't ignore him. So, there's Golden Soul, there's Commanding Curve. In the Preakness a few years ago, he had Tale of Verb. Like, he shows up and he ruins tickets. So I'm not going to let him do that to me this year. He is going on my ticket. It's going to be fourth. He'll probably run second just to mess with me, but I can at least say he's on my ticket. And I'm also adding New York Traffic on in fourth. He can get fourth. He's capable of that, but he's a herd animal. I don't think he wants to win races. I really don't. He had every opportunity to get past Authentic in the Haskell, and he decided, no, you have this. I'm good. And he does that. I haven't found that killer instinct in him to get to the front of a pack and stay there. And frankly, I don't think that he has enough distance backing in his pedigree on the sire or dam side to get, into the top three in the Derby. Is he capable of hitting the board in fourth or fifth? Absolutely. He's a good horse. I just don't know if he's a Kentucky Derby horse, but I'll throw him on my ticket. I wouldn't want to get burnt by him. I don't think I'm going to have to worry about it, but for a $21 ticket, let's have a little fun, see what happens.
Andrew's just loving that my ticket is still on the screen. Do you want me to take it off, Andrew?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me much because there's one play that I have that actually we didn't show a graphic of quite yet, and that's just to finish off the $40 stake. I am putting $4 to win unenforceable. That horse is going to be a gigantic price, and on the off chance the horse that I like underneath gets his nose down, I want to be able to say that I've cashed and made some money. So that's an even $40 budget for me. And unlike JD's ridiculous super that I'm still sort of trying to comprehend, I lost a couple of brain cells hitting my forehead with the notebook down there. But yeah, at any rate, the important thing with the Kentucky Derby is get involved and do what you can to play your strongest opinions. Yes, it's a bigger field, but the same principles in handicapping still apply. If you've got strong opinions, double down on them, and if you're right, you stand to make a pretty nice chunk of change.
Yes, find a friend that will bet you that Sol Volante will finish in fourth. Take your entire bankroll, push it at that friend, and see what happens. That's what I'm saying. That's how strong I feel about that opinion. But
baby.
We have a lot of friends that wanted to chime in, not just with the Kentucky Derby, but with some races in the undercard, some very familiar faces to those that watch horse racing on a regular basis or are big fans of horse racing Twitter. So let's find out who some of our friends have selected for both the Kentucky Derby and for some of the underneath races on Saturday.
Hi everyone, my name is Matt Dinnerman. I am the track announcer at Golden Gate Fields, also the racing analyst here, and I've got a pick for you on the Kentucky Derby undercard. We are going to the Turf Classic, race number 13, which every year is the appetizer before the big entree, the Kentucky Derby on Derby Day. We're using the other Chad Brown runner as the top pick. Sacred Life in the Turf Classic this year draws post position number 8 for the Brown stable. Paco Lopez has them out. I really like this horse. He ran a really good fourth, a better than looked fourth actually, to Zulu Alpha in the Pegasus Turf Classic, was given some time off after that run, comes back in the Monmouth Turf Cup last time out a month ago, and this horse ran off the screen, won easily by about 4 lengths. He makes his second start off a layoff for trainer Chad Brown, who, by the way, even though he can get runners ready to go first off a layoff, he has very high numbers and he's very strong second start off a layoff. I think this horse is going to be in peak form. He's going to be in peak condition, should get a good trip, and I think he's got a nice closing kick. He's always been a good horse. Sacred Life for me, Matt Dinnerman, in the Turf Classic, race 13 at Churchill Downs on Saturday.
Hey, what's going on at In the Grandstand? Pat Day Mile, I like. Tap It to Win, I've liked the horse quite a bit. Ran in the Belmont, then came back. Ran at Saratoga, outside posts. kind of a tough trip. Echo Town just had a little bit of a trip that day, so I'm going to go with Tap It to Win to bounce back, get the effort. Looks like 4-1 on the morning line. And then the Derby looks like just play some shots underneath Tiz the Law. He seems to be the best horse on the race. Tactically, he's going to be right there, and he'll be tough to beat. A little chalky, but find some value there with Tap It to Win. Good luck.
Mr. Champagne, Mr. Fox, it's Matt here. I have nothing profound to discuss as far as the Kentucky Derby is concerned on Saturday, but on the undercard, race number 12, I have a bit of a pet of mine, and I think she was a little bit compromised in her most recent start. A lot of people still think she's probably a notch below. Race number 12, 7/8 of a mile on the main track. It's the Derby City Distaff. I love my girl Sally's Curlin. She's 12-1 on the line. I don't know if this is necessarily the spot for her. I'm holding out hope that she at least catches a piece of this thing and the connections continue on to the Breeders' Cup, because selfishly I want to bet her in the BCBC because she's going to be a giant price. But she's the kind of horse that continues to get disrespected at the windows. All she needs is pace. And I get it on dirt. Not necessarily the greatest thing if you're pace dependent. But talent-wise, I think she has it in spades, and I think there's going to be a little bit of a pressure cooker up front. Give me Sally's Curlin in the Derby City Distaff. Enjoy Derby Day, boys.
This year should be great, despite the chaos that the year 2020 has brought to the sport and to the whole world. But as far as any kind of betting, I'm going with a double, Oaks Derby double of Gamine and Money Moves. I hope everybody has a great Derby.
When you're looking at this Derby field, one common thread that you're going to see is a lot of horses with turf-type pedigrees and horses with turf or synthetic experience. The two most prominent ones are probably juvenile champion Storm the Court, who is graded placed on turf this year, and Sole Volante, who of course has also been training on turf recently. Both are by Breeders' Cup Mile winners. Storm the Court is the best runner to date by Court Vision, and Sole Volante is from the first crop of Caraconti, who was a French Classic winner before coming here to win the mile. Now, these turfy pedigrees and experiences, not necessarily a disadvantage. The Churchill Downs main track often plays kindly toward turf-type runners, particularly when it's wet. Think about Derby winners like Animal Kingdom, who came in off a synthetic track, Barbaro, a stakes performer on turf as a juvenile, Big Brown, who broke his maiden on the turf. You even have horses like Patio Prado, who was third in the 2010 Derby on a wet track and later a Grade 1 winner on turf, or Dullahan, a multiple Grade 1 winner on synthetic and third in the Derby. Now, some speculate that the typical shape of a turf horse's foot helps them get a hold of this particular track better, but whatever the reason, there's a lot of history with horses who fit this profile. I'm just saying that if you like a long shot in this year's field, don't let yourself be talked off them because, oh, they've run well on turf, or, oh, their dam did her best work on turf, because this has been a useful angle. By the way, Derby favorite Tiz the Law's dam, Tiz Fizz, was a Grade 2 winner routing on turf, so there you go.
Hey JD, Andrew, just checking in here on Derby weekend. Got a couple opinions to give you guys. Always enjoy listening to the show. When I was a guest on there, hope you'll have me back someday. As for the Derby itself, not a big fan of it from a betting standpoint. I think the two favorites, Tiz the Law and Honor AP, kind of tower over the field. I'll go with Honor AP just because I think he offers some more value. That last race was a prep, but I'm not expecting anything too big. Maybe if I were going to play some vertical bets, tries and supers, I'd throw in Attachment Rate, who I think's been running deceptively well and could really inflate those prices. As for other races on the card, the one horse I'm looking forward to betting in the Turf Classic is the number 8 horse, Sacred Life. He comes in from a listed stakes win. Tracked the slow pace that day, really exploded late, and I think he's really ready to step back in the graded stakes company. So, again, enjoy the show and look forward to talking to you guys soon.
It's Derby Week 2020. Got to be checking in with my friends over at the Champagne and JD podcast. It's Gino here from That's What G Said. How weird is this? It's September, and we're going to be talking about the Kentucky Derby. I've got my Laker playoff beard. So, yeah, basketball and a Kentucky Derby in September. that makes sense. But hey, it's 2020. I know a lot of people are probably going to be checking in and giving you some thoughts on the Derby. It's a weird year. We're going to have one of the biggest favorites we've had in quite some time. So I won't really give you anything on the Derby. Good luck to Tiz the Law. Good luck if you're trying to beat him, if you're playing and trying to catch prices under. For me, there's a really good chunk of races on the undercard. Check out races 4, 5, 6, and 7. 12 horse fields back to back to back to back. If you're looking to make some money and maybe find a race or two where you can catch a nice 5, 10 to 1 shot, you should have plenty of opportunities there. Good luck this weekend, and good luck, Champagne and JD.
So I had grand plans of filming this at the track this morning, but given the rain that has hit here for the past 2 days, that plan obviously got scrapped, and so we get indoors for this video. I've been on site at Churchill since Sunday. It's definitely been very different atmosphere from past derbies with a limited amount of personnel on the backside, very quiet. Bob Baffert kind of looked around out of habit the last day or so and was like, where is everybody? You know, where is the crowd from, from having everybody around his barn? But like I said, it's different. It's definitely a different atmosphere, understandably so, going on right now. Horses that have impressed me on the track, I really love what I've seen from Honor AP. He's just, he's such a very fluid mover out there. He looks so much like his father. It's frightening in a good way. I love the way that he's moving. I love the way he's getting over the track. He has had no trouble with the sloppy surface the last 2 mornings. So I said, whether he's good enough, we'll see. But I said, I love what I'm seeing from him physically. I thought 1,000 Words looked like a horse wanting to do more this morning, for whatever that's worth. Tiz the Law, enough said with him. There's no knocking him to this point, and nothing that I've seen would in any way dispute him being the heavy favorite. But I said, it's been interesting week, good week, quiet week on all fronts too. I've been around Louisville, just going to some local businesses and restaurants, have not had a single issue at all, have not felt unsafe for one moment. So I just want to get that message out there as well, since some have been perpetrating this narrative that it's that there are threats and that it's unsafe at all, and that is just not the case.
What's up? Why am I jogging? I need to get my energy up. I am pretty exhausted from a week full of handicapping. By the way, I'm Dan Torgman with America's Best Racing, at Anonymous Man on Twitter. And yes, it takes a toll on you after a while. My voice is hoarse. I've been told I just look terrible. So, whatever. Here we go. This year, Honor AP and Attachment Rate, your logical and your long shot. Use them with Tiz the Law. Don't be silly. You can't throw the horse out. Wishing everyone a very, very happy Kentucky Derby.
My top 4 selections for the Derby, which I also gave out in daily racing form, are Honor AP, Tiz the Law, 1,000 Words, and Max Player. Tiz the Law is obviously a very deserving favorite with his dominant performances this season. The 1.25 miles is not a question for him with the way he just cruised in the Traverse. That said, Honor AP should absolutely relish this distance as well. I think the longer the better. I don't think it's a coincidence that his best race to date has come in his only start at 1 1/8 miles, while he's sort of knocked at the door in races at 1.16 miles. He's in the hands of a trainer in John Sheriffs, who is one of those guys who is a master at getting horses to peak on a certain day. I think he backed off Honor AP just a little after the Santa Anita Derby. We didn't see the Colts' top effort in the Shared Belief, and now he's cranking back up to a peak again in this little form cycle for Saturday. I love what I've seen of him getting over the track the first couple of mornings he's been here with this big, long stride. I don't think he's a horse you necessarily want to stop and go with, and I think drawing toward the outside could help keep him out of trouble. So I will take a minor swing with him over Tiz the Law, and behind them I've used 2 horses who just seem to be rock solid. 1,000 Words was so good early on, kind of fizzled out a little in the spring, and the extra time to this Derby has really been to his benefit, allowing him to come back around and mature. He's not flashy, but he's tough. He's all racehorse, and I could easily see him grabbing a piece of this. Now, Max Player is another horse who just seems to run his race every time. Whether or not his best race is good enough, that's up to you to decide, and he is switching barns. But I admire his consistency, and he really looks to be getting over the track well. He's sort of the other son of Honor Code, if you will, of course joining Honor AP, and he's another who should like the distance.
Once again, thanks very much to all of our friends for taking some time out of their really busy schedules to shoot some video for us and let us know their thoughts on this year's Run for the Roses. It is an unconventional year. These are unconventional times. And we started this podcast in large part because of that, because of days like Saturday. Regardless of anything else that's going on in the world, horse racing's still there. And when horse racing's going as well as we all know it can, it's a lot of fun. So on that note, we're going to get into our final thoughts here, and I am going to leave the floor open to our guest, Joe Nevills, for any final thoughts that he, his wife, the little old man from next door, his cat, his wrestling promotion in Kentucky that hasn't run a show in a couple of months, any thoughts that he or any of his associates may have, the floor is yours.
So I'm actually going to take this away from the Kentucky Derby for my final thought, because I cannot be on any appearance without talking about my history with Michigan racing and Michigan breds. And there are not any on the Kentucky Derby card, but there is one with very deep Michigan ties. We're going to go to race 8 on the Kentucky Derby card, the American Turf. And in this race, number 8, Fancy Liquor, is out of a mare called Brandy's Secret, who is sired by the great Michigan bred Secret Romeo, who became a very good sire in his own right. Second dam is a mare named Money for Brandy, who I actually saw run at Great Lakes Downs back in the day. She was a very good mare owned by a friend of my grandpa. I actually gotten a winner circle photo for a picture of Money for Brandy. So I've got a lot of rooting interest, and I'm glad to see that Fancy Liquor is actually a pretty good horse. Won the Caesar Stakes last time out. Nearly won or run a good third in the Jeff Ruby Stakes back at Turfway Park. So he's actually got a few Derby points. He could have qualified. We could have a horse with Michigan connections in the Kentucky Derby, but we don't. So I'm going to root for him on the undercard and, hope for the best. Us Michigan breds are few and far between. He's not technically a Michigan bred, but he's close enough that we're going to count it.
I do enjoy that, the passion for Michigan racing. I'm afraid that Arizona racing may soon become similar to Michigan racing. I'm hoping not. But we have not seen good times. And luckily, we've taken a couple of weeks of breaks, because if we did a show the last 2 weeks, if I could do a show, we would have been putting people on blast. So, Andrew, one thing we have not talked about in a while, and I would like to say that luckily I have an outlet for this. I've been almost every week appearing on Away They Joe, the podcast talking about international racing. And obviously, you heard from Joe earlier on with his favorite Derby memory about California Chrome, and he showed one of the nicest prints I've seen of the Kentucky Derby with California Chrome, and he took that out of the frame for us, so we really appreciate that. But I'm taking you to Royal Randwick on Friday night here in the States, Saturday in Australia, and we're going to be talking about race 6, which is the Darley Furious Stakes to Grade 2, and there's a horse I really like in there, Stellar Pauline. Now, Stellar Pauline, this is a step back up in class, just actually beat Maiden Company last time out, but had a strong second in Group 2 at the Group 2 level back earlier in March, and also had a 5th place, really underrated performance. So I do think Stellar Pauline has a good chance just sitting off the pace and winning this this very long-running, prestigious race, one of the starts of the Spring Carnival at Royal Randwick, because in Australia now it's officially spring. It's a spring season. We're going to start to see some of the great stakes action that we get in Australia. And speaking of Furious, I'm going to hand it over to Andrew Champagne.
Okay, I've got a couple of things, some joking, some not. First of all, just in case none of you got the message.
Truth. Preach it.
Seriously, stop it. It is an assault on the English language. Every year I tweet this, every single year. And I understand that there are people who think I am a raving lunatic for my anti-Derby stance. For, why are you ruining something that's so much fun for everybody else? Because it's an assault on the English language and not a word.
I'm going to give you time to breathe, Andrew. I'm going to say this real quick. If we're going to go on that tangent, as an initial guy, JD, initial guy, honor AP having a space between A and P has driven me absolutely insane. But since it's there, everybody please recognize it. Okay, Andrew, you have the floor again.
Okay, number 2. This one's actually kind of cool. For as much attention as we're paying to Churchill Downs, Saratoga's not over. And Saratoga's got some really good racing coming up on closing weekend. We're filming this on Thursday night. Friday's card at Saratoga, 12 races, lots of New York breds, lots of big fields. If you're watching this on Friday morning, by all means, don't forget about Saratoga. There's a lot of value to be had in those races. And I like Saratoga and Churchill Downs cards enough to do something that I haven't done in a very, very, very long time. In a stroke of good fortune, I have off from my day job at Life Chiropractic College West on Friday and Saturday. So here's what I'm going to do. For the benefit of my Twitter followers, for anybody that wants free handicapping insight in 2 minutes and 20 seconds or less, from every race, Friday and Saturday at Saratoga and Churchill Downs, I'm going to be making videos. I'm going to make sure these get online about 10 to 15 minutes before post of each race. Some of them might be pre-taped, so if there's a late scratch or a late surface change, you're on your own. But you know what? It's free handicapping, so if you're angry, quit your bitching. Now, there are, of course, other reasons why I'm doing this, one of which is I am hugely competitive. And every once in a while, I run in an opportunity to show people I can still do this as far as the whole sitting in front of a camera, handicapping, talking horses, picking winners, engaging the public, making sure that people have content that is devoted to handicapping and the enjoyment of that art. Because make no mistake, handicapping is an art. It is not easy. There is a chance I go 0 for the next 2 days. I have already come to terms with that. It would not be the most humiliating thing that has happened in my life. So my Twitter is @AndrewChampagne. You can see that right down here. And if you want my videos, my picks and analysis from Saratoga, my piping hot takes about Derby not being a word, that is where you can find them. And on that note, Joe, floor is yours. Where can people find you? I need to take a breath.
Okay, Andrew, take a breath. Breathe. You've still got it. Clap, 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 clap.
I never lost it, baby!
So you can find me on the Paulick Report. I'm the Bloodstock editor there. We're going to have, after the Kentucky Derby, we're going to have a lot of coverage of the upcoming yearling sales. We'll have the PR specials going out, which is our PDF newsletters. Please subscribe to our email newsletter. You can do that on the website. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Nevills, which is where my professional account, where all my horse racing stuff goes. If you want to hear me talk about professional wrestling and just anything else that's going on that's not related to horse racing, that's at MIBreadClaimer. My Instagram is also at MIBreadClaimer, where I mostly anymore post pictures of my adventures with the neighbor's cat. He's very fun to hang out with. And that's pretty much it for me.
I'm going to give you one more shout out, Joe.
Okay.
I really enjoy the Arabian videos you've been doing with Jonathan Horowitz. Very well produced. I know Jonathan works really hard at that, so just wanted to give a shout out on that. I watch those every month, and they're really well done.
Oh, those guys, Jonathan and Ashley, do fantastic work. It's been a pleasure to work with the Arabian Jockey Club with that. I've been either writing or working with the Arabian folks for over a decade now, and it's been a great group of horsemen, people associated with it to work with, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
All right, I need to jump in.
Okay.
I brushed on it right at the top of the show because I introduced you with your specialty. I stole your move. Haiku Handicapper, where is it?
The Haiku Handicapper will be found Friday afternoon on the Paulick Report. That is something where I analyze every horse in the field of a race in the form of a haiku, which is a very short Japanese poem of 3 lines, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables again. They're usually very cutting. They're very concise. Sometimes they're just not very nice either. But
what's the favorite one that you've written? I have my personal favorite, and I think you know which one it is, but which one is the favorite one that you've written? I need to ask you this before we get out the door.
So you guys remember the Belmont Stakes that Guyana Star Dweej ran in? That horse that had absolutely no chance and ran to it. I've been doing the haiku handicapper since Breeders' Cup Classic 2008, and I've been saving up an opportunity to just make all 17 syllables of it the word no. Just no, 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 no. And that's what that was, because I was so confident that this horse was going to be absolutely no factor that it was just no 17 times. And I was right. Good to be right.
It is really good to be right, and that's one of the reasons why all three of us really love this game. Joe, that is absolutely tremendous, and that's the one I was really hoping you would pick, because otherwise I would have had to channel it, and I don't know if I could have done that justice. So, Joe, thank you for that, and thank you for stopping by Champagne and JD. We're really happy to get this back up and running, and we're really happy to have you back on.
Hey, thanks, Andrew. I'm happy to be back and working, and I cannot wait to hear what Joe has to say about attachment rate. I think it's going to be great. Oh, man.
You know, okay, I was going to be nice, okay. JD.
Here we go.
I was trying to thank the guest. That's why I said Joe. You jumped right in. You stole all the glory. I've been nice this entire time. I've attacked New York traffic, but I've been nice. I was going to let you take the catchphrase. I was going to do it. I was really going to do it. Now, stay off the beaches. Best of luck this week at the Kentucky Derby. We'll be back next week with a Queen's Plate edition of Champagne and JD. We're really excited about that one, and we hope you are too. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. We're back. We're better than ever, we hope. And if Enforceable winds up winning the Kentucky Derby or running second behind Tiz the Law, I probably quit.
I don't know if I'm going to want to do a show with you if that happens. So probably a worthwhile split at that juncture. But
I love you too, JD.
Good luck on Derby Day, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.